He was her pastor, he was her best friend; just now he was her champion, prepared to fight her battle, whatever it was. And to do this successfully it was necessary that he should know all. In the end she told him not all, but the main facts. He thought it the silliest case of making a mountain out of a molehill that he had ever heard of. He was convinced there was more in the background, to account for the violent emotions aroused, to account for a good girl leaving a good home in the middle of the night to drown herself. In his conjectures he made Guthrie Carey the villain of the piece, the young man who, after creating all the disturbance, had significantly cleared out. Sailors were an immoral lot, a sweetheart in every port, as the world knew. And this fellow, why, you had only to look at his big, brawny build (Mr Goldsworthy was a small man) to see that he had a brutal nature. At any rate, the parson was satisfied that the heroine of the story remained a pure girl, foolish, but womanly, and very, very unfortunate. As she sat weeping by his side, dependent solely upon his protection, he stroked her hand and looked at it, so shapely and high-bred, the hand of a Pennycuick of the great house, a hand that would be full of gold some day, and his thoughts were busy. The beautiful Deborah was gone, and could never have been for him. He had been an idiot to think it. She had no bent towards religion, was ruinously dressy and extravagant, unhousewifely as a woman could be; but Miss Pennycuick, great lady as she was, could cook and sew, was a master hand with servants and with children, and had never failed of interest in the church nor in him. They had always been the best of friends, he and she. Did it not seem that Providence had decreed they should be more? Why had he been sent to the dam in the nick of time, when he had intended to stay at Redford until morning? Why was she sitting here now, alone with him in his study, cut off from everybody else in the world? The hand of the Lord was in it. Looks were of small account when one considered her rank and the fortune she would inherit. But, of course, he did not admit to himself that he considered any one of those three things, nor that she was of age and her own mistress, although she had just forced the fact upon him when, promising him to make no further attempt upon her life, she announced an intention to find a situation somewhere in which she would be able to support herself apart from her family, and away from all who knew her. No, what he considered was the will of God and the dictates of his conscience. She had been given into his hands; he was bound to take care of her, and there was but one way to do it. It would be wrong and cruel to force her back to Redford. It was preposterous to think of making a governess or companion of her, a daughter of the proud Pennycuicks. She could not remain in his house as she was, without scandal, although he was a clergyman, with a sister housekeeper. Here they were now, past midnight, and practically without a soul in the house, and he so young still, and, if he might presume to say it, so attractive. He put the case to her guardedly, gradually, plainly at last, and argued it for a full hour, while she drooped and wept, gazing at the smelly stove and shaking her head wearily. By the time dawn came, and she was quite worn out, he had won her consent to be his wife, which meant for her a footing somewhere, and at the same time a means to commit suicide without violating the law. Miss Goldsworthy, who was but his humble slave, came home, put the forlorn girl to bed, and made a wedding breakfast for her while she was there. Mr Goldsworthy took the opportunity to fill up marriage papers in his study. Ruby was sent to school, as usual. Before her return therefrom, Mary Pennycuick had been led to the altar of the adjacent church. The white frock in which she had tried to drown herself, dried and ironed to make her bridal robe. A neighbouring clergyman and crony of the bridegroom's performed the ceremony. Old Miss Goldsworthy, the chief witness, deposed, bewildered, wept bitterly. The bride was unmoved until little Ruby, returning during the course of the ghastly wedding breakfast, was brought up, giggling and staring, to kiss her new mamma, when the new mamma snatched the child to her breast, and went off into wild hysterics. "There, there," said the new husband, pleased with the maternal gesture, but alarmed by her excitement. "You are overwrought. You have had no sleep. You must come and rest, my dear. Come and lie down. You can have Ruby with you, if you like, while I go and settle things at Redford. No, I won't be long. I'll just see your father, and be back by tea time. Have the drawing room opened, Charlotte. It never was opened except for visitors, and we will sit there this evening. And, meanwhile, make her some tea or something, and see that she has all she wants. Come, my love." He led her to the door of a room, and she shrank back from it with a shriek. "Well, well," he soothed her, "the spare room, if you like." "Oh, promise me, promise me!" "Yes, yes, just as you wish, darling. I would not hurry you." She turned to Miss Goldsworthy and clung to her. "Save me, save me!" was what the desperate clutch meant, but what the paralysed tongue could not articulate. She was in a high fever and delirious on her wedding night, and a week later at death's door. When she came out of her illness reconciled to her family, meekly obedient to her husband, she was a wreck of herself, a prisoner for life, bound hand and foot, more pitiable than she would have been as a dead body fished out of the dam. The tragic disproportion between crimes and punishments in this world. End of chapter 11.